Tuesday evening, an unnamed hotel somewhere around the Keys. I checked in a little after 10 PM with a mind for food. I have a suitcase full of ingredients, sure, but there's no way this hotel's gonna let me use their kitchen, but they don't need to. My name is Jack Christian, and I'm here to prepare a full 3-course meal in my hotel room, using only the equipment available to me there. So, for our first course, we're going to make deviled eggs, and I'm just going to show you how we get around to that using only the things in this room. To begin with, I'm going to go and fill up this kettle. Okay, so now we have our kettle. We're going to place it on to boil. We've left the top open here so that we have easy access to drop in our eggs as the kettle is boiling. We're looking to achieve perfectly hard-boiled eggs. We don't want the yolks to be running, so we're going to close the top there, let it get as hot as it can, and we may even have to set it to run a second time. So we're going to begin by chopping some coriander, and we want to make sure that we're not going to damage this bag too much because we do have use for it later on. We just take the nicest looking stalks and next we're going to add 2 teaspoons of mayonnaise. Carefully. We have it nicely hard boiled there. So what we're going to do now is just take the yolk of the egg. It should come out cleanly like that. And we're going to add that to our mixture. And then just give that a good old mix in with the mayonnaise and our coriander. And what we will do now is add a pinch of salt, a little touch of paprika, and finally some Dijon mustard. This is good shit. Okay, so you may remember that we said we would save the bag from our coriander. I'm about to show you why. What we want to achieve is essentially a piping bag. So what I'm going to do is just fold over this corner and just take off the end. And what we can do is just use our second mug to kind of mold our bag around it. And we just want to get as much of this mixture as we can into our piping bag. So I'm just going to take our piping bag and just slowly but confidently pipe into the hole left when we remove the yolk. And now, if we're satisfied, we can finally bin this bag. Okay, so now we've got the basis, we are able to just add a few final touches of presentation. So we're going to go back to our paprika. Just a little bit on top makes a world of difference. And now we're going to go back to our coriander, finely chop them, and there's our garnish.
Jack,
Yeah.
who's that?
Who, this? I'm just gonna keep it, I guess. Might make myself an egg sandwich tomorrow. Great, I did that. Deviled eggs, course 1, done! So this next course is going to be a simple pasta and sauce with fresh pasta and a vegetarian tomato, lime and basil sauce. As with our piping bag from earlier, we're going to use this piece of packaging as a kind of boiling bag. Just insert it into our kettle, and we want to make sure that we are keeping it trapped. We don't want the bag to touch the bottom of the kettle because that will begin to burn our ingredients. We just want it suspended in the water a nice distance, so we keep a little bit kind of clenched. So while our tomatoes are boiling, we're going to open up our bag of basil, take some of the better looking leaves and chop them up a little bit. We want to add our basil. So we want to put in our basil, but to keep a little to the side as a garnish for later. We only need 1/2 of this dish. We're going to use the other for a later course, so we're just going to store that away. And we can tell immediately that our tomatoes are exactly the texture we want them to be at. And what we're going to do is just place it on our surface, and we can use really anything that's got a bit of a solid base to it to just squash them. And hopefully, provided your bag hasn't got any holes, we should just be able to keep it contained to the bag and mash them up a bit.
What the fuck?
And around this time, what we're going to want to be doing is adding a pinch of salt, which we will mix in along with a bit more paprika. We're going to take some flour, tip a little bit out into your hand, and we're going to try and add this to our sauce just bit by bit and mix it in. So we can leave our sauce to one side for now and prepare our surface to make the pasta. Oh. Okay, so for our fresh pasta, what we're going to do is take some of our chapati flour once again and lay that out on our table. And then what we can do is start to combine with our flour. Okay, so now our dough is kind of the texture we want it to be in. It's a little ball like that. I'm going to wash my hands and then we're going to roll it out. What we're going to do is take our backup mug and just begin. We're getting to a point where our dough's quite thin. We've got a lot of surface from it. We're nearly at the point that we can cut it to shape. And we're just going to go for a tagliatelle. We're going to cut it into long but thin strips. Not quite spaghetti, so we're looking for something nice and thin, like so. Okay, so now we are going to take our long strings of pasta and just halve them. So now, what we want to do is, once again, come back to our kettle. And still a little bit of steam coming off that from the sauce, but we're going to whack it on to boil once again. And this time we really do want to get it boiling before we put that pasta in, because otherwise the egg in the pasta is not going to cook properly and we'll be left with something that is not going to work quite as well. I think I can hold it. You know what? Okay, so now we're able to take our knife and just test a piece. Okay, so you can see it's holding its texture quite nicely there. We've not got any kind of sense that it might fall apart, which is exactly what we want. We're going to take our sauce and just slowly shake our pasta into the same container. There we go. Get these little bits back in there and give it a mix. And to present, we're just going to take those few little bits of basil that we kept to one side earlier and scatter them on top. So around this time, when I'm cooking, I usually like to make myself a little drink, so I'm going to run you through that now. We're going to be making a raspberry and lime daiquiri. We begin with 1 measure of white rum. We just pour into the cap. And then, hey, it's a weekend, let's go for another. And next we will add an equal part of simple syrup. The simple syrup I'm using is 1 part water to 1 part sugar. They are heated together in a saucepan until the sugar has completely dissolved. Then, crucially, we let it cool down. Next, we are going to use the other half of the lime from earlier, and what we're going to do is take it once again, and we sort of want roughly a similar amount. We want slightly less lime than the other 2 components because we don't want the lime to overpower it. It's a very strong flavour. And the final ingredient is our raspberries. I'm gonna take a couple, and we don't really want to get the bits in there, so you're gonna keep them in a closed hand and just squeeze out the juice. Squeeze it together so that what ends up in there is purely juice and seed. Okay, I'm gonna go wash my hands and then give that a mix. So we're just gonna stir this together to combine the raspberry with the rest of the ingredients. And so now to present it. So for the main course, I'll be making a standard quesadilla, but with a little bit of extra in there as well. So the main part of a quesadilla has to be queso, cheese, as well as a couple of other bits and bobs. So first of all, we are going to prepare our pepper. So here are the tomatoes from earlier. We're not going to use them all, we're just going to choose the nicest few and chop them into slices. Let's take out 1 of our tortillas. We're going to begin to assemble it. So we'll start with a couple of our peppers. At this point, we are going to season. We're going to scatter some salt over it. And what is anything without a bit of paprika? Here we have the vegetable and tortilla base, which we are going to add our cheese to. So we're going to open up our bag of cheese. Take out a chunk, and with no grater, we are going to just slice it very thinly. And what we want to get out of this is almost a full covering of cheese on top, because it really is the main ingredient. It's the star of the dish. And the way we will be heating it is by using the hotel iron. Now, this isn't always going to be in the room. Most times you will need to go and ask at reception, but they'll happily provide it to you. And often you also get an ironing board, which just makes it a little smoother. We don't have an ironing board today, so we are just going to do it on the surface we have. On to cooking it. We're going to take a second tortilla and place that over the top, like so. Press it down a bit to keep it flat. And now what we want to do, so we don't overheat and burn the surface of our tortillas, is to wrap it in tin foil.
Going down. Ground.
Turns out they don't sell tin foil.
Payments accepted. Thanks for shopping at Tesco.
So, we did not bring tin foil and had to run around the local area looking in different supermarkets. Tin foil is not cheap. This has been a big blow. But we can now get on with our main course. So, the iron is heating up. I'm just going to give it all the time it needs. Now we've got the iron heating up, we can put it down on the foil and just start to slowly warm that up. The iron will continue to heat up and that will in turn get our food just that little bit hotter. Okay, so we've been ironing that for a couple of minutes now and that will be more than enough time to have melted all the cheese and cooked the fillet. So if we flip it over and open it up, we can have a look. And as you can see, we've got a bit of texture on the top of the tortilla, and by the feel of it, all of the filling in there is hot and melted. So, time to present. Just gonna So that's really all there is to it. I've made a starter, pasta, main, and a drink alongside, all using purely the equipment in this hotel room and one knife. That was genuinely nice. Oh. Well, that was delicious, and also a lot easier than you might have thought at first. So that's all from me, and I'll see you next time.